Hello guys, welcome here to another edition of Out of Turn 4. Coming up on the show, we got a big one today. We are going to go over the latest racing news, including some new signings in the NASCAR Cup Series. We've also got a crew chief retirement. And then, of course, we will make the playoff predictions for the NASCAR Cup Series and our race weekend picks. But we begin with NASCAR Daytona, and boy, was it a wild weekend. Jeremy Clements, of course, if you didn't watch the NASCAR Xfinity race, it was delayed till about midnight. It was delayed till about 10:30, 11 on Saturday or on Friday night. Ran into Saturday morning, ran 3 overtimes at Daytona. It took 3 overtimes to get this race finished. And Jeremy Clements came through with a big victory at Daytona. Of course, it is his first win of the season. And, of course, his second career win. But even more interesting is he got his second career win on the same exact day 5 years ago. Or 5 years ago, the same day, he got his first career victory at Road America. And of course, that is, again, his second career win. But this win is very notable because he was not really in the playoff race for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. So this now puts some drivers on notice. And some of the notables, of course, Landon Castle, I think, is a big one that is now on notice after that. Of course, Landon Castle only 12 points ahead. I believe Daniel Hemrick is only 33 points ahead of the cut line. So now that puts both Kaulig drivers on big notice. And of course, Sheldon Creed, Ryan Sieg, both now out as a result of that. So then, of course, we got like 2 or 3 races left in the regular season. Who will make up those final 2 spots? To be honest, I could see it being Daniel Hemrick, but something tells me, if I had to guess, Sheldon Creed might just sneak in and take the spot from Landon Castle. But I wouldn't be shocked if it remains the same because, let's be fair, as exciting as NASCAR Xfinity Series racing is, there's really no big... I mean, this is the first real big surprise we've seen playoff-wise in a really long time. For the most part, it's just status quo in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and I think many can agree with that. So, very interesting to say the least is now it's going to be a close battle for those final playoff spots, and of course we will see it over the next 2 to 3 races. On the Cup side, another wild event, and of course, if you saw my Twitter, at Tinkle_BHummel, you could tell I was not happy with how they kind of covered this rain delay, but I digress. If you want to see why I was upset, you can go over to my Twitter page. But Austin Dillon, yes, you heard that right, Austin Dillon, he is the winner of the Coke Zero 400, and because of that, he is now the 16th different winner, of course, the 15th eligible different winner to make the playoffs. And of course, what was supposedly just going to be, in all likelihood, Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex going on to make the playoffs has turned into just Ryan Blaney. Martin Truex was well ahead after Ryan Blaney crashed early in the race, but Ryan Blaney hung in there and, of course, managed to finish, I believe, 5 points ahead of the bubble. Of course, again, the race was supposed to be Saturday night. It was rain delayed into Sunday morning. Yes, I can't believe they did it Sunday morning. But Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, they ran the race. And it was not on the main network as expected. As expected, it was not on the main network. It was on CNBC, which, of course, directly competed with the F1 race at Spa. And if you don't know, that race was on ESPN2. And of course, Max Verstappen, no surprise, he was the winner in that race. But back to the Cup Series race, of course, a lot of West Coast fans very upset with the fact that NASCAR moved this race to 10 a.m. on the East Coast. And of course, going back to Twitter, left a little note for the West Coast people. Get over it. Okay? This race, I get it. But, races like Watkins Glen, where there were no lights. Races like New Hampshire, where we don't have lights. Okay, do you see where I'm going with this? With the 3 p.m. start times? This is why we start races at noon, 1 o'clock. And sorry, West Coast, suck it up. Plain and simple. I think you'll get up at 9 a.m. for a race if you really care about the sport. I'm just saying, we need to stop catering to them. And again, this is a lifelong East Coast person. I've never left the East Coast in my life. So, again, probably going to draw a lot of hate for that, but get over it. Plain and simple. If you care so much about the sport, you will get up and watch it at 9 a.m. on your time zone. And trust me, if I care enough about the sport and I lived, on the West Coast, I would get up early too to watch it. So don't give me the swan song, basically. But of course, I think the bigger issue is that the race is on CNBC. But again, to me, I understand it from the standpoint of they've got to show their news in the morning, They've got to compete with This Week. They've got to compete with Face the Nation, CBS Sunday Morning. And frankly, it was, in a way, a blessing in disguise that the race was moved to CNBC. Here's why. Because with that rain delay and the PGA Championship being on NBC, for a fact, if the fact that the rain delay ran past 2 o'clock, they didn't restart till about 3:54 o'clock, okay, to complete those final 21 laps, for a fact they would have moved that race to CNBC anyway. Just saying. So you might as well just cut the middleman and just put the race there anyway. So I get fans' frustration. Trust me, I don't like NBC as much as the next person. But I think this was the better option. I think NBC thought smart about it, and I'm glad they did. Because it would have been more frustrating if they cut the Cup Series race short. Because again, I get the PGA Championship, one of the biggest majors of the year. But also, this is a big NASCAR weekend as well, because it determines the 16 drivers that are going to make the playoffs. And, I'm so sick of the pick and choose. And again, it actually worked out as well, I think, for the standpoint of we've had networks, and I teased this on Sunday Morning Tinkle, we had networks that didn't show the NASCAR Cup Series race on their main NBC network. And if you want to know why, it's the preseason. And if you watched Sunday Morning Tinkle, my public service announcement on my Sunday Morning Tinkle takeaway, or breakdown, or the Tinkle rundown, sorry, I'm half asleep. My takeaway was that the preseason doesn't matter. Okay? What are we fighting for in the preseason? I get the NFL is big, but who cares about a preseason game where Tom Brady's going to take 2 snaps and walk off the field, and then, not be seen for the rest of the game? Okay, what was the big deal with having that game on MeTV or the digital substation. Why did it have to be the NASCAR Cup Series race where they're actually racing for something and playing for something meaningful, unlike the NFL, which if it was regular season, again, I would totally understand it. But we're talking preseason. It doesn't matter. The only thing that the preseason matters for is who makes the 53-man roster. If I wanted to see a fourth-string quarterback versus a fourth-string defense, I think I'd watch, then I think I'd watch. But again, they're not awarding trophies. This was just ridiculous. And, I guess at the end of the day it worked out if they couldn't play or if they couldn't race on Saturday night. So, of course, in the end it worked out. But going back to Truex, of course, Martin Truex, he misses the playoffs despite being fourth in the standings, and he will go down as the highest in the point standings to ever miss the playoffs since the playoff format, as it's known, was introduced. And that brings up the question, is the format to blame for Martin Truex Jr.'s playoff blunder? My short answer, no. Okay? You knew what you were getting with this playoff format. It's not anyone's fault that this year, with the new car, things are a little bit more balanced out than in years past. There's really, up until the last few weeks, there was really nobody that stood out until about Pocono, I believe the race before that, when Chase got his third win, and then, of course, the Mickey win at Pocono. It was open game. Nobody was a serious contender. No one was really that standout guy before then. We just kept getting new winners each week. And Truex had 26 chances to win a race. He had 26 chances to go to victory lane. Something he's done pretty easy when he had Cole Pern as his crew chief. Okay, and this, I think, puts James Small on the hot seat. But get over it, Truex fans. Okay, he had 26 races to win. He didn't. And then on top of it, he got handed a gift. He got handed practically a Mickey playoff spot, if you want to talk Mickey Mouse so much about Chase Elliott and other drivers. He got handed a Mickey Mouse playoff spot on a golden platter, thanks to Kurt Busch taking away his playoff waiver. He got handed it. And then he got handed even more after Ryan Blaney went out in a crash. Get over it, Truex fans. Hate to break it to you, you had two golden opportunities to go and get into this championship hunt. And you want to know what? You blew it, okay? Truex, you blew it. You choked. You showed exactly, you basically drove like 2008 to about 2013, 2014 Martin Truex. The guy who couldn't win races, the guy who was second best at best. Okay? And guess what? NASCAR made this system because of fans complaining about Matt Kenseth winning a title in 2003 when he only won one race versus Ryan Newman, who won 8. Okay? It was because of your bitching that NASCAR created this playoff system. And it was because of your bitching that this expanded as big as it did. And now you're going to go backtrack and bitch about 20 years ago when we didn't have the playoff format and how Truex should be in the title hunt. Guess what? You didn't like it being rewarded as consistency. You don't like it now being rewarded as wins. And I hate to tell you, you can't please everybody. And I get it. no one, no one's going to be happy regardless. I think Truex should be in, but at the end of the day, we don't hand out playoff spots to the Detroit Lions because of games that they came close to winning this past year. If you recall, the Lions had at least 2 or 3 wins that got taken away by by things out of their control. The field goal by Justin Tucker last year, they were going to beat Baltimore without that field goal. Okay, they were probably going to beat Baltimore. They were probably going to win at least 2 other games. But again, last-second field goals. Okay, we don't reward the Detroit Lions a playoff spot last year because of close calls and because of consistently good, stretches. No. We reward on wins in other sports. And I get, no one wants to compare this to a ball and stick sport. But again, you made this product, and you want to know what? And I hate to break it to you, but it's here to stay. So if you don't like it, door's right behind me. That's all I got to say on that. So, again, if you don't like the playoff format, quit bitching the NASCAR to change it. There's the door. Find your way out. And guess what? I got news for you. You don't need to broadcast it on Twitter either that you're leaving. Because you know what? Nobody cares. Okay? Sorry to be so harsh, but, I just love seeing the stuff on Twitter, and I love firing people up. So that's why we did that. But anyway, moving forward onto the racing news. Eric Almirola and Smithfield have officially announced they will return to Stewart-Haas Racing on a multi-year deal. Of course, as you know, it was announced at Watkins Glen he was going to return, and then immediately it was backtracked, saying Eric Almirola saying, "I never announced anything." There's no news. I'm still retired. And then a week later, comes out and says, "Oh, by the way, I fooled you guys. I'm back." So, good to see for Eric Almirola. Good for Stewart-Haas, of course, on the money side of things, because Smithfield, of course, brings in a lot of money to Stewart-Haas Racing as well as the sport in general. Bad news if you're Kyle Busch. Looks like that retirement party's looking pretty good right about now. But, good for Stewart-Haas. They get a big sponsor back. Again, Smithfield wasn't going to stay without Eric Almirola. And it's good that Eric Almirola found the balance between fatherhood and racing. So I'm excited to see him back on the track. And you know what? I would hate to see him go out missing the playoffs, because I know he's a guy who can make it. Whether he makes a deep run or not, he's a guy who can make it year to year. Of course, if Stewart-Haas does figure out the next-gen car. Greg Ives is the other big story this week. He is stepping away at the conclusion of the NASCAR season as crew chief for Alex Bowman. Of course, this one was a big shocker. I don't think anyone expected this in what we've seen this whole entire offseason, but it might be a good thing for Alex Bowman if you look at it, because he really hasn't had the best year. He's been the 4th Hendrick car probably most of the year. So I think at the end of the day, change is a good thing. As far as potential replacements, I look at the junior motorsports side of things, of course. We know Luke Lambert, the crew chief of the number 9. He has Cup Series experience crew chiefing at RCR. Mendering will probably be at the top of the list. He shouldn't be, because he's such a lousy crew chief, but, I don't think Rick Hendrick cares about that. But honestly, my pick would be Luke Lambert because of the Cup Series experience. The other option, Taylor Moyer, he's young. It's his 4th season. He's done 4 seasons of NASCAR Xfinity competition. Of course, he was paired with Sam Mayer this year. But again, 34 years old. He's young. He's a young up-and-comer, so maybe that's a possibility. I would lean more toward Luke Lambert. But what about the possibility, again, we saw Drew Blickensturfer get poached from Front Row Motorsports to be the crew chief for Eric Almirola this year. Maybe there's a chance that Hendrick poaches Dave Lenz from Richard Petty Motorsports, or Petty GMS Racing, my mistake. And the reason I bring that up, Dave Lenz, a former Junior Motorsports crew chief, of course, won championships over there. So, and obviously has been a big part of Petty GMS's success to this point in the season. Of course, none of their cars made the playoffs, but both cars were very competitive. So, maybe there's a possibility that they do poach him from Richard Petty Motorsports and bring him back home to the Hendrick stable. But again, I would lean more toward Taylor Moyer or Luke Lambert, I think, will be the big ones. I don't foresee Jason Burdett going up. I think he'll stay with Justin Allgaier. Same with Mike Bumgarner. I'm sure they will both be staying. All right, another big news, big silly season news here. Zane Smith will return to the now Craftsman Truck Series in 2023. That's right, Craftsman is now back as the title sponsor for the Truck Series. Big news there. But Zane Smith will return to the trucks for 2023, as well as running select Cup and Xfinity events for Front Row Motorsports. Big news there, of course. I imagine the reason for the Truck Series is funding was probably better over there than it would have been to field him in the Xfinity Series full-time, as well as the fact that Ford is just so short in numbers. But bad news for Junior Motorsports, because I'm sure they wanted to poach him so bad. I would have rather seen Zane Smith in the Xfinity Series, but another season of trucks doesn't hurt anything. And of course, getting Cup seat time, especially at the Daytona 500. By the way, he will be running that next year, likely in a third Front Row Motorsports car. I think that's good for him. I think it's good for the team. To be honest, I mean, it's not a full Xfinity season. I get it. But look at the bright side. I mean, he runs the Xfinity Series. It'll help develop Front Row Motorsports. The fact that they are letting him get seat time in the upper series with their team, I think it'll help them grow in the future. I think it'll help them be one of the top Ford teams that, frankly, this year they've shown they're capable of being. So I'm excited to see what Zane Smith will do with the seat time. Let's move forward here. Suarez Trackhouse 1-year deal. Big news there. I thought it'd be a long-term deal, like 2-3 years, but nonetheless good to see that they came to a contract agreement. All right, on to the playoff predictions. I start with my dark horses, the guys that I think could play spoiler in the playoffs, and I point no further than Ross Chastain and Ryan Blaney. And you might say, Brian, Ross Chastain won 2 races this year, and he's been very competitive. Why is he a dark horse? Well, frankly, he doesn't have the playoff experience. And, of course, I think his back is against the wall with everybody who wants to get him. So that's one reason, or that's the other reason. Ryan Blaney is also one of my dark horses. No wins this year. That's why he's on the dark horse list. But he's been consistent in the points, so I feel like that will help him potentially make it far in the playoffs. So then I got 2 drivers that I have as guaranteed first-round exits. Austin Syndrick tops that list, believe it or not. Austin Syndrick, let's face it, he's been kind of the worst out of, if you don't count Kurt Busch being out the last handful of races. Austin Syndrick was the worst of all the winners this past season. So, and to be honest, he's a rookie. Ford struggled. I just don't see him making a deep run, let alone getting out of the first round. Same with Austin Dillon. He's been kind of off his game. I don't see him making it past. So with that, of course, I put up my round of 16 exits, so I'm going by exits. So obviously Austin Dillon, Austin Syndrick. I think Chase Briscoe's out too, but here's why. I think his real big chance to win will be at Darlington. I just don't know if he's strong enough to get that win in advance. Christopher Bell is my other guy. Again, Toyota's struggled this year with the exception of a couple wins here and there. I just think Christopher Bell, at the end of the day, is the weakest link with all these strong Chevys that are in the playoff picture. So that said, on to the round of 12 exits. I've got Tyler Reddick going out in this round. I feel like his chance to win will be at the Charlotte Roval or potentially Talladega, and I just don't see that happening. Alex Bowman, I think, will be out too. He's not had a good year, and usually this is the time of year where he comes to life. I just don't foresee it happening. Kyle Busch will also be out in this round. I think there's just a lot going on in his head. I get it might be a motivating factor, but he hasn't really made it out of the round of 12 the last few years, so I just don't foresee that happening once again, especially since he hasn't been rowdy as of late. Daniel Suarez, he'll be the other exit again. The Roval might be his best chance to advance, and I just don't see that happening. All right, instead of doing the round of 8 exits, I'm going to just post up my championship 4. I think easily it'll be Chase Elliott. And again, this is unbiased. This is based on how they've run all year. I think Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick, and Denny Hamlin are locks into the championship 4. Harvick's been strong. Hamlin always puts together a good run. And then Harvick's been hot the second half of the year, so I feel like he'll get in. Chase has been the best guy all year. He's been the guy everyone's been chasing. He's got the playoff points, so I think he'll be there. And then, of course, I mentioned the dark horse. I think he gets to championship 4. Ryan Blaney will get there. As far as my championship pick, as of right now, I'm going Chase Elliott. Again, I haven't seen anybody that's really able to compete with him in the win column. I don't see that changing. So, again, we'll see what happens, though. We got 10 weeks coming up. 10 exciting weeks, and we can't wait to watch it with you. Anyway, moving on. IndyCar picks for Portland. I'm picking Scott McLaughlin to win the race. Penske's been strong all year. I think they'll continue that dominance. NASCAR Xfinity Series at Darlington, I'm going to go Ty Gibbs. I was going to pick Denny Hamlin, but it doesn't look like he's racing this weekend, which is kind of a shocker because he always runs Darlington in the Xfinity Series. But again, we'll wait and see. As far as the Cup side, I think Denny Hamlin will punch his ticket into the round of 12 with a big win at Darlington. All right, those are the picks for the weekend. We want to thank you for watching. Be sure to tune in to No Final Bell tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube and Facebook Watch. And then be sure to tune in to Sunday Morning Tinkle on Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Again, I will be on with Jason for that show as always. And then be sure to tune in next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We will have our NFL season preview show. Jason and I will be on to tell you who we think is going to make the playoffs, Super Bowl picks, MVP picks, you name it. We're going to discuss it on the show on Wednesday. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye, everyone.